G'day scrappers. Today I thought I'd get onto depopulating high grade boards, or pretty much anything higher than your mid-grade peripheral type boards. So I guess the most obvious place to start is with motherboards. You got like your PC motherboard, your laptop motherboards, and your server motherboards. And motherboards are probably the trickiest one out of the whole lot, because obviously the main reason why we depopulate boards is because we're trying to get extra value out of what we're scrapping. But yeah, I probably keep on going on about it all the time, but when it comes to motherboards, but the main problem with scrappers depopulating boards is they're going for the gold. And you see, a motherboard is not about gold recovery, to be honest with you. A motherboard is all about all precious metals and base metals. There's probably 18 to 20 different metals on the motherboard, and so it's it's just, if we're looking at getting best value out of our scrap, then just focusing on gold recovery on a motherboard is not going to give us the value that we are looking for, because as I've mentioned before, it's not just gold, it's silver, and it's platinum and palladium and rhodium and ruthenium and tantalum and all these metals. Then you got your base metals like tin, nickel, copper, aluminium, and even steel. And then you've got a whole heap of other things. So it's really hard to say let's start depopulating a PC motherboard to maximize our value, or we're going for the gold, when it's just so obvious that there's so many other metals, and most of the metals we can't actually get. It's not easy for us to get in backyard refining or any particular way, whereas a professional recycler or professional refiner, say a Umicore or Sims or someone like that have all the facilities and the multi-million-dollar machines to process motherboards and all kinds of e-waste. They get all the metals, and when you're processing tons and tons, it's economical to get all those metals. Like even in these slots here, we know that there's a little bit of gold plating on those pins, but the pins are pretty much made up of it's a phosphor bronze, which is not a very easy thing for a backyard refiner to recover gold from, because the phosphor bronze messes up the process. Okay. Whereas again, a company like Umicore are going to be able to get that gold and also get that phosphor and bronze and and anything else that they can get out of it. And they'll even probably recover the plastic, where that'll sort of float away, and they'll be able to even do something with that plastic. So it's I just struggle to find anything of real value on a motherboard, aside from actually just selling it to a refiner or a board buyer. Now this one in particular, okay, it's an older version. It's got the Intel flat packs here. It's a green board. It's a plastic socket board, so it's or a large socket if you like. So this has probably got better value, obviously, than your modern style boards, your coloured boards, the blue and red and yellow and purple, whatever. They're more like, they're not really aftermarket, but there are some kind of some type of aftermarket boards in the coloured range, and just everything's just a lot cheaper. You can just see, but you know, even here I can't see much gold plating in these pins here. I can't see much here. In there, there's probably, it actually looks like it's tin inside here. These ones are gold plated. I can see the gold plating in there, but again, that's phosphor bronze. Very hard to recover the gold from. And here, these are just your tin or silver pins, the old style RAM. So, you know, there's no gold there. These pins here, where we can see the gold, and they're just straight pins. They're not phosphor bronze. These are just, you know, gold over nickel over copper or tin or whatever. Yeah, these ones great, but you know, so out of this whole board, they're the only pins that are really worthwhile on this board. So we've got, you know, a few sets of pins here, and so for the amount that we're going to get from just these, depopulating the whole lot, we're going to probably lose value. Now, maybe in this case, because we've got quite a lot of flat packs and the good Intel ones, you know, there's good, you know, probably much better gold recovery in them. But this is another thing, and this one sort of kind of really, you know, it bugs me, you know, when I'm thinking about gold recovery on these flat packs, because you know, you'll look at people that refine, or statistics you'll see online on how much gold they're getting out of these kind of flat packs, and you'll say, okay, well, that's, yeah, fair enough, but you know, I just still can't help but, you know, remind myself that, you know, there's in most of these there is very little gold, and in fact in a lot of these there is more platinum than there is gold, and there is most definitely silver, more silver than there is gold. But because the refiners that, you know, backyard refiners, they're only just focusing on the gold. Gold is like the magical metal that they all want. And so whilst they're, you know, for every $100 of worth of gold that they can recover out of IC chips, they're giving up $100 worth of platinum and silver and copper that they're missing out on. And so that's why refiners pay good money for motherboards, is because they know what they can get out of it. You know, they're not just focusing on gold. You know, and so, and obviously we know, like, MLCCs have got palladium and stuff like that, and palladium is actually going up in price. Surprisingly, palladium has actually gone more expensive than platinum. Now, platinum was at one stage almost 3 times the price of palladium, and now palladium is, you know, equal value, if not a little bit more, than platinum. And don't be surprised if palladium goes equal value with gold. It's not going to be long. So yeah, so I know this video is about depopulating, and you know, and I know that, you know, there are some people that, you know, are not interested in selling their boards at all. They just want to get what they can out of what they got, depopulate it completely if they can, and just leave it at that and go for the pins. All right, well, so these pins here, even if you get them, and there is quite a lot of work to, you know, to remove these pins out of all these sockets, and the chances of you getting any good gold out of that, unless you're a really good refiner, but even then, even the good refiners know that anything that's plated onto phosphor bronze, and the reason why these pins are phosphor bronze is because they're a spring kind of a pin. When you slot in a slot card, the pins sort of spring over the slot, so they hold it in place. So they're completely different to straightforward pins like these ones here. Totally different thing. And so even, you know, if you ever come across gold recovery guys online that know what they're talking about, they'll tell you that they have a lot of problems extracting the gold from the phosphor bronze. So, okay, that's that. So, okay, so let's just assume we don't care about that. You know, we don't care about selling this motherboard, even though we know we can get more value for the motherboard selling it than we're going to get any gold. most likely we're not going to get the platinum and silver, because it's surprisingly how much silver actually comes out of eWaste. And silver is just about everywhere. Obviously it's not going to be in these aluminium capacitors or anything like that, but most of the things that we go for, like the MLCCs, you know, they contain the palladium, but they also contain silver. Crystals and crystal oscillators, they're mostly based on silver. What's that? Tantalum capacitors, yeah, they're about 25% tantalum, but they also have silver in there. And see, you know, all those other side metals are being neglected by backyard refiners, and they're just focusing on the main metal that's in there, and it's a big loss. And that's why, again, refiners pay according to what they actually get out of these boards. You know, like, you know, it's a green board. Okay, now if you filed away this green paint, underneath you'll find it's all copper, and it's all like either copper wiring or the whole board will just be copper. And you see, anyone that's refining backyard, they're picking off the IC chips and so on, and then virtually throwing away the green boards, because, you know, for the average person it's impossible to get the copper from that board. It's just not worth it. You don't have the volume, and you don't have the right machinery or the right technology. Sorry. And all the tiny little resistors and MLCCs that we can't get, you know, all those resistors have got, you know, like we know, it's ruthenium oxide, you know, and they'll also have a little bit of silver, and even diodes that we mistake sometimes for tantalum capacitors, they even have silver in them. I'll get to them a little bit later, but all the tin and nickel and even lead solder and all that, you know, a refiner gets everything out of this. And so just pulling off your main chips, and even if you did take off these pins that you're most likely never going to recover any gold from, it's really still, and throwing the rest away, it really is a waste of resources, you know, because as I said, there's so many base metals in just the board alone that we're missing out on. But you know, okay, we can't really help that, because we're not, we don't have $10 million machines that are going to process that, and we're just trying to do our best in recovering as much as we can. And so that's fair enough. But if you're looking at pins on a circuit board, the best pins to focus on are just these straightforward, straight out pins. They're not spring loaded, so they're not phosphor bronze, and these are the things that we can recover gold easily from. But you know, again, that's all you're getting here. 3 rows here and 1 row here, and that's all we've really got as easy recovery pins. We do have some pins here a lot harder to work at, very hard to get, but they're there, and if you got, you know, plenty of time, it's probably worth going for these if you've already depopulated the whole board. These kind of jacks here, the mouse and the keyboard jacks, there is no gold in these pins, in these sockets at all. These round ones, forget about it. In here, no gold, okay? That's the best one there, and then usually these will have gold pins too. In the CPU socket itself, yeah, those pins there, they're usually again on phosphor bronze, but maybe not. Just depends on how they're set up. Because for it to be phosphor bronze, it really has to be a spring-loaded gold pin, rather than just a straight out thing. So, you know, okay, so what do I do about this one for depopulating? Me personally, I'm not going to depopulate motherboards. Wouldn't waste my time. I'd rather get the value, the full value, and be done with it, because there's pretty much everything else. I'd rather depopulate mid-grade boards, peripheral boards, even low-grade boards, and then skip all the motherboards and go on to slot cards and telecom kind of boards. That's where your main thing is, in your telecom type boards and custom boards and just all your oddball stuff. Like even you'd get an LCD TV and you take out that little mid-grade board. You know, I'd rather depopulate them. You know, if you're lucky, you get a BGA. I pick off all the BGAs and I depopulate them completely, because I'm not going to get much more value as selling it as a board. But motherboard, because it's got so much basically junk on it for us, like this piece of steel, it's just junk. I'd rather get $4 a kilo for that piece of steel than take it off and get 15 cents a kilo as scrap steel, you know. And so even though there is steel on it, there is junk, there is low level of gold plating, board buyers still are prepared to pay top dollar for motherboards. So yeah, consider that. If you've got a place where you can sell motherboards, yeah, sure. If you've got to post your motherboards away, then it's probably not worth it. If you've got to factor in postage, it's probably not worth it unless you've got real large amounts and you can send it by courier, say 500 pounds at a time or something like that, or even 1,000 pounds at a time. That's where, you know, it'll be worthwhile. But just like 50 or 100 pounds of motherboards, it's not worth posting it, you know, by post anyway. You won't make any money at all. Then you're probably better off depopulating. But anyway, once again, this video is all about depopulating boards. So what I will do is I'll depopulate a couple of motherboards just to show what I can get out of it. But, you know, I can just pretty much point out anyway, you know. Obviously, we're going to go for all the chips, any chip that you see. We're going to go for MLCCs, especially MLCCs around the CPU area, like these ones in there. They're going to be really good MLCCs. Sometimes there's MLCCs around the edges, rows of them. They're really good. You know, your crystals, you know, we take them. This is more, crystals are more for a hobby kind of, I depopulate boards and all that for obviously gold recovery, but also because I'm interested in it. I like to collect little things like that. You know, it's going to be hard to get good value out of a crystal oscillator at this stage, but there is silver in everyone, and it's a speculation thing. You know, if silver one day turns out to be worth a fortune, then it's going to be worth going for them. Right now, it's not worth it. You know, at 50 cents a gram, it's not worth trying to recover, but there's nothing wrong with picking them off and stockpiling. So this is what I'm mostly about, is in the stockpiling. And what I was trying to get to with the BGA chips and IC chips is that because we're only focusing on the gold right now, and we do know that there is platinum and there is silver and copper in these BGA chips and flat packs and all that, don't worry, again, don't worry about going for gold recovery today, okay? Don't even watch or think about what other people are doing and, I just, you know, processed 5 pounds of BGAs and this is how much gold I get. Who gives a toss? Because really, it's got nothing to do with the gold. Because I kind of laugh. They get, you know, $20 worth of gold, and I'm thinking, well, hang on, well, how about the $20 worth of platinum and silver you've just thrown away? You know, and so the whole reason why I focus on stockpiling your chips and all that is hopefully in 5, 10 years, 15 years time, we as backyard refiners can get have got a new technology, or there is some kind of new process where we know we can easily get not just the gold, but we can get that palladium and platinum and silver, you know. And so that's where you're going to get your value. You know, just going for the gold, you know, I'll give you an example whilst I'm on the subject. This is a beautiful little telecom kind of board, right? Now, right straight off the bat, obviously we've got our gold fingers that we're going to take off, and these are you know, semi-vintage. So the gold fingers, these are really thick, heavy gold plated fingers, right? It's about the best kind of gold we can get on circuit boards, aside from gold bonding wires inside CPUs and ceramic IC chips and stuff like that. But you can see all these you know, lovely IC chips and all that, you know, and these are the plastic type of IC chips. But if I can get into one, and so most people are going to say, okay, I'm going to take off all these, and it's worth it. Obviously, you wouldn't sell this even as a telecom grade board. You're much better off, you know, I think anyway, going for all the IC chips, taking all of them off, taking your gold fingers, and taking these gold pins, which are also going to be very nice, and then discard the board, send it off as scrap metal, because this circuit board is scrap metal. That'll get minced up, and they'll recover most of that metal out of there anyway. But see, people are going to go for these IC chips and think, oh well, there's gold, you know, there's gold in there. But a lot of IC chips don't have gold, and they say, oh well, I'll just throw that out because it looks like it's just silver and that. But most likely, if you don't see gold, it's most likely going to be platinum, and 100% there's going to be silver in there no matter what. So if I can get one of these out, I want to take one off where I can sort of break it and show you inside. Okay, I'm just going to have to get some pliers and get into this. Okay, so I've just opened up half of that IC chip, and so the top of it is going to be really hard to see, but so far we can't see any gold. We can see what looks like silver. Well, most likely there's going to be silver in that, and quite a good possibility there could even be platinum. Most likely there will be, right? And you know, some gold refiners will say, oh no, there's no platinum in there, or there's none of this. Well, you can't base you know, what's in IC chips based on 1 pound or 10 pound sample, because that could have been made from anywhere on any kind of specification. So yeah, so don't worry about if anyone says, oh, there was no platinum in there. I tried to recover the gold, but I didn't see any platinum. They weren't even going for it, and they don't even probably know how to get it. Okay, so tiny. I've got really fat fingers, so it's really hard to hold these little things. But okay, so in here I can see copper bonding wires. I can actually see in the back there gold plating on the bonding wire there as well. I can see this copper plate here. Underneath that copper plate, it looks like silver. It's most likely going to be silver at least, because if it wasn't silver, it would probably be gold. So they're not going to jump, you know, step down from gold down to tin or something. It's going to be silver over nickel or something like that, and guaranteed. But it could also be platinum, because I've seen a lot of platinum, or a lot of assay results from IC chips and stuff, and from, you know, like Umicore type of assaying, and I've seen so much platinum come out of all different types of IC chips, but you never hear of a backyard refiner ever mentioning platinum, you know. And so this little tab in the middle, that's going to be either silver or platinum, okay? And so there's a lot, and obviously I can see a lot of copper. So there's a lot of 4 metals in here that, and we're only going for the gold. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that don't focus too much on the gold recovery. Keep your IC chips, and you know, surely you're not in a hurry for gold recovery, because, you know, it's no secret that you're not going to make a living on gold recovery from circuit boards, okay? This is more, it's like a hobby, but it's also like putting money in the bank. Where you'll make money is getting these boards, okay? You know, to get a motherboard, say, this motherboard came out of a computer, okay? So we've made our money on that computer by maybe selling the CPU or putting that away for gold recovery. But the whole computer tower is scrap steel. We get the power supply unit, we get aluminium, maybe some copper. We get a lot of copper wire. So that's where we make our money. So this is not what we're focusing on when we're going for gold recovery from eWaste. You know, we've already made our money from scrap metal and all that. This is just our bonus. And if you're patient and you're not rushing to get a few grams of gold out of the Bga chips that you've accumulated, if you can just wait 5, 10 years, even if it's for some younger guys 20 or 30 years, wait, hold on to it. You know, I guarantee within 20 or 30 years we're going to have technologies where we're going to be able to recover not just the gold but everything. And so when you've got your Bga chips, even if you send it to a toll refiner in 10 or 15 years time, you're not going to just expect to get the gold out of that. You're going to expect to get probably 50% of how much gold you got in platinum, okay? And probably by weight 2 or 3 times as much silver than you do as getting gold, you know? And if you factor in that silver could also become very valuable one day, well then, you know, we're talking about high value stuff. It's just being able to recover it, and we can't do that right now because you're not going to get that information from anyone because no one really does it. They're just focusing on gold. You know, send someone a bunch of chips and they're going to go for the gold, and everything else is just going to be in the solution and they're going to discard that solution. They're not going to bother processing it, and probably their reasoning is going to be it's just not worth going for the platinum and all that. Well, why isn't it when platinum's worth just as much as gold, just about? It used to be worth more. So why isn't it worth going for the platinum? You know, why do we focus on gold? Why don't we just say, oh, we're taking IC chips for platinum recovery, you know, and forget about the gold? You know, would they do that, you know? But see, one day that will happen. One day we will have technology where we can, you know, extract all those metals, and then you can triple the value of whatever gold you're getting out of it. So even if gold goes up, shoots up sky high in 10 years time, well, so too will platinum, so too will silver. In the MLCCs, so too will palladium. You'll see, won't be long before palladium will be worth just as much as gold. It's already worth more than platinum, and platinum, 3 years ago was worth a lot more than gold. So palladium is the next biggest thing as far as precious metals, and it's not because of jewelry, it's because of I don't know what they use palladium for, but you know, catalytic converters and stuff like that. Every catalytic converter needs palladium. Some need platinum, but it's mostly the diesel cars that require platinum catalytic converters. It's got a mixture of platinum and palladium and rhodium. But in every, just petrol catalytic converters, they mostly use, I'm pretty sure it's just palladium. But okay, so let's get on to depopulating anyway. I've gone on a bit, but yeah, I just, you know, this video is probably not going to show you anything spectacular. It's just, all I'm going to be doing is basically just depopulating boards, but it's mostly in the message that I'm trying to send is not to focus on just gold. We know it's there, but we also know that there's palladium, platinum and silver. Well, platinum and silver in most IC chips, and we're just missing out. And so some people might do a pound of IC chips and they say, oh, there wasn't much gold in there at all, must have been a bad batch. Yeah, because you didn't look at the platinum or you didn't look at the silver. And that's why, because the platinum and the silver took the place of the gold. So here we got a laptop motherboard. And okay, laptop motherboards are worth more to sell than a PC motherboard. And the reason is because there's less junk. They're usually double-sided, so they have a little bit of chips on both sides, but very little junk. Everything is sort of, you know, compared to a PC, that's all junk really. It's, you know, okay, you got the pins inside, but you got a lot of plastic. Here we've got a lot of steel, you know, and, you know, it's just a lot more junk. That's why motherboards should, laptop motherboards should always be worth a little bit more. but the same kind of deal. Do you depopulate? Well, the ones you do depopulate are the old school, you know, the old Toshiba Satellite Pros and all that, all the, say, from 1990 back, all the original laptops. They've got fantastic motherboards, and you know, you wouldn't even sell them. They're probably more collectible than anything, but they got really good value stuff. Like on this laptop motherboard, okay, on this side, all we've got is one Bga chip, okay? So no big drama there. We've got some gold pins here, okay, but really not a lot much else. Now, you know, we've got tantalum capacitors, but you know, keep in mind that tantalum capacitors are, you know, they're not worth that much at this stage. They're worth about, I don't know, about $25 a pound. You know, so the reason why most people like to pick tantalum capacitors off is that it's a conflict metal, and one day it could go sky high. And so $25 a pound is not much, considering they don't weigh much. You need a lot to get a pound. But one day, you know, tantalum capacitors could be worth $300 or $400 a pound. You know, you never know. So that's just a speculative thing. It's not something that we're really focusing on. They're just easy to spot. They're easy to pick off, so we take them. On this side, we've got a few flat packs, a little IC chip, not a lot really. And here we've just got a silicon chip, okay? And so, you know, most of you know, and for those that don't, these silicon chips, you see a little gold corner. Don't worry about that. That doesn't mean nothing. All that's really here is that square piece of silicon, that's chip there. Now, inside there, yep, there will be silver and maybe platinum, but it's not the sort of thing anyone's really going for, because there's really no gold. And this is the thing, most people don't value these at all because they can't get any gold out of it. But we don't know really what else is in there, because no one's really tried to get out the silver and platinum or anything else that could be in there. We know there's silicon, and silicon's not worth anything. But so maybe they're worth keeping for long term, and we find out that there's, you know, when we can extract silver and all that. But really, they're not worth nothing, these ones. Even though they're BGA, there's nothing there. So really, on this whole laptop motherboard, there's only one really good chip. And so we take off that chip, we take off a little bit of pins, some tantalum capacitors, a crystal, we take off a few little flat packs, and we'll probably even leave that on. It wouldn't be even worth taking off. So really, we're not getting much value. We're really only focusing on one Bga chip. And you know, we've given up quite a bit of value in this board, because once we've depopulated everything, it's worth nothing. It's not worth, it's no longer a motherboard, it's just a blank circuit board. And so, okay, so we've got some, you know, really nice little pins here. They're great, you know, but there, you know, there's only a few pins. It's not, you know, okay, we've got some, you know, a little bit of gold pins in there, and some in the USB ports there, and that's it. So, you know, do you depopulate? Personally, again, it's a motherboard. I wouldn't bother depopulating. If you've got somewhere to sell it, you're better off selling it, and maybe then take off a couple of tantalums if you want to add to your collection, maybe a crystal or two, but that's it. There's really nothing else on there. So very simple to depopulate, because we've only got a few chips. And then the next type of motherboard is the server motherboard. And okay, so a lot bigger, and they look, you know, good, but really same deal again. There's just no real precious metal value for today's kind of refiner, as far as gold anyway. Okay, so we've got a Bga chip here that has got the copper top. So this I class as a class 3 Bga. It's really not that valuable. This one here is a class 2. These are the good ones with the gold corner, but it's got like a plastic or a ceramic top. That's a copper metal top, the whole thing. So there's really nothing in the top there, whereas in the top of that, there's gold bonding wires. The plastic part underneath is got a little bit of gold too, but it's mostly about this top part. And so that one there and this one there without the plastic and no gold corner, but that's a class 1. That's still a valuable BGA. And that little one there. Okay, so really we've got 3 good value BGA chips, and that's it. This one is not very good, and these 2 silicon BGAs are useless. So, and they're the main chips. If these were like that and that big, that'll be great. But these are just useless. So removing these is not going to give you any value. And so what else you got? You've just got this little cluster of chips here, and a few chips up the top here, and that's all we've got. And we've got really no other value. Yet a server motherboard sells for as much as a laptop motherboard by weight, but this server board weighs 3 to 4 times more than this board. So for this board alone, selling it to a board buyer, say about 1.5 kilos, it's worth about $7 or $8. Just selling it there, and they're paying for the plastic, and we know phosphor bronze pins, we can't really get the gold. It's really hard. Nothing there. We've got some gold pins here. These ones here, yeah, they're probably phosphor bronze as well. These ones don't look too bad, but that's it. So really, I challenge anyone to show me any real value on this that's going to give me more than $7 or $8, or in America you might get $10 for this board. Where are you going to get $10 of value from depopulating it? Because you're going to turn most of it into rubbish plastic and scrap steel, and you're only going to get these 3 BGAs that are worth anything. A few little crystals. I think this one actually had a BGA chip removed, so it might be an extra one there. And on the other side, there's nothing. We just got, sure, we've got some MLCCs, lovely, and these on a server, they're going to be high class MLCCs, but there's nothing there. So, again, I can't really say that you're going to get better value depopulating any kind of motherboard. So we've got PC motherboards, laptop motherboards, and server motherboards. I just can't see it. And me personally, I just you wouldn't get any value. Like if you were to sell this, could sell it, you might be able to pick off these MLCCs, a couple out of there and there, and get a little bit of, add a little bit to your collection. But and if you don't have anywhere to sell your board and you're just happy to depopulate, well, that's fine, go for it. But I can see what you're going to get. You're going to get 3 BGAs that are worthwhile, and one that's only so-so, and the rest of the board you really got nothing. You're really going to have nothing much to show for depopulating this board. But if you've got no other way to get rid of your boards, then I suppose you've got no option, and then you might as well take all these pins and just put them into a jar and just class them as phosphor bronze pins. And not for today, but one day, again, same with everything, we're going to find a way to recover the gold easily out of phosphor bronze. I'm thinking some form of reverse electroplating. That's probably the only way, because you don't want to use acids to try and eat away the base metals. You want to actually just remove the gold from the base metal. And so the best way to do that, I think, is reverse electroplating, which not enough people are actually trying to do. So if you're into gold recovery, put your chemicals in the garage and leave them aside and focus on reverse electroplating, because that's going to be the future of gold recovery until we find a better technology. So I really recommend, and I'd love to see a lot more backyard refiners focus on reverse electroplating and mastering that art, and and one day we'll really get it. So here again, once again, we're looking for the main chips, a copper top BGA, class 3, nothing really special. A low value silicon. We've got another silicon one under here. The only thing of value here is this copper top, which is worth just as much as you get for the board just about anyway. Okay, so finally we've got one tiny little Bga chip down the bottom here. Okay, are we going to sacrifice this whole board for one tiny Bga? You know, you could even take this Bga and still be able to sell this board as a server board to someone. Even, you know, you could sell them on eBay. You know, if you stack up 20-50 pounds of server boards, sell them on eBay or put them on Craigslist or Gumtree, somewhere like that. And you know, there are people that just want to play around with depopulating boards and stuff, but they can't get the boards. So you know, you're always going to be able to sell them. But yeah, so here the only thing, you know, like good things are like these MLCCs. Now these are going to be, you know, class 1 MLCCs around there, even inside the CPU slot. So those little MLCCs in there, they're going to be good. Things like that. But yeah, another type of server board. Once again, well, here this isn't too bad, although it's a very heavy board, this one. And on this side we've got nothing, absolutely nothing of value here. Maybe the pins in there. So we've got no real bugger all in here. Phosphor bronze pins. Okay, we've got a chip underneath there I might take off and have a look. Okay, there could have been a Bga chip, but it wasn't. It depends on the configuration of the boards. So this one wasn't removed. It never had one in the first place. But it looks like, yeah. So there's all this that could have been IC chips, but they never were. So, but we do have some really nice Bgas here. This one is a ripper. These two are good. Even this one's a good one, and this one here is a good one. Then we've got tantalum capacitors. We've got these really nice crystal oscillators. Okay, under here we've just got a silicon Bga, no value there. This one under there is just a silicon Bga, so no value. Wasn't even worth taking off the heatsink. So, and the other side, nothing aside from a really nice stack of MLCCs that we can remove, right? So these are really nice, really add value to your MLCC collection. But again, you got to debate, is this worth it to depopulate? Because all we're going to end up with is a few IC chips here. Like they're like little transformers, these pulse things. So count them out. So, you know, still a nice little collection of Bgas, but geez, we're giving up a lot just to get those Bgas. But if you've got no option to sell, and there's got to be options, you know, you put them online somewhere, someone will buy a stack of server motherboards. You know, someone will buy a stack of laptop motherboards, you know, and same with PC motherboards, you know, you build them up, you know, and focus on, you know, sell these and focus on the better stuff that we get, even the slot cards that we get, the RAM, the CPUs, and then other kind of eWaste. The low grade eWaste is well worth depopulating. Motherboards are not, but there's a lot of other boards, especially telecom boards, that I'm going to get onto now, and slot cards and things like that, that are worth depopulating. And so that's what I want to get onto, because even if I depopulate this board, there's really nothing to show you in what to depopulate, because it's obvious. We're just going to take off these chips. There's nothing unusual here. There's not enough range for me to show you the differences between MLCCs and inductors and tantalum capacitors and diodes. There's no real range here to show you. So, but I just wanted to get all this out the way, and now let's start getting onto some better stuff.